everybody, I hope you're all well. Welcome back to another Big Finish audio drama review. In today's review we're going to be catching up with one of the latest releases as a part of the Torchwood main range. It is of course a story featuring Toshiko Sato as portrayed by Noako Murray, and it is Drive as written by David Lewen. This release is available to order now on the Big Finish website. The physical CD is £10.99 and the download is £8.99. There is also additional story details on the Big Finish website, as well as a trailer that can be listened to. Now the first thing that I'm going to mention for this review is that I watched this story on a little bit of a whim. I had a spare hour, or at least revision wasn't going particularly too well. I was a little bit down in the dumps. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to bin off revision. I'm just going to go and submerge myself within a Big Finish story for an hour. And once more, the Torchwood main range came to the rescue. And to be honest, the story itself actually made me feel a lot better. It's one of those episodes where you can just put it on and it has a really nice link of humanity behind it. And it's one of those Torchwood stories that at the very end you kind of come out of it with a positive emotion, which for the Torchwood main range I must admit is a little bit of a rarity, because there's quite a lot of hard-hitting Big Finish stories with lots of emotional elements relating to character and sad stories. This episode does contain that, however it kind of ends on a happy note as well, which is a really nice change to usual. Starting off this review on a positive, if you basically want your mood to be uplifted, especially at the minute, I think that Big Finish is a perfect way to do that, especially if it's a little 1 hour audio drama that can make your day just ever so slightly brighter. So taking a look at the production credits now on the Big Finish website, the senior producer is David Richardson, the range producer is James Goss, the cover artist as per usual is Lee Binding, the director is Lisa Baumann, the music has been created by Blair Moat, the producer is Emily Cook, the script editor is James Goss. This episode has been written by David Lewen, and of course the executive producers are Nicholas Briggs and Jason Haig-Ellery. As per usual, with it being a Torchwood story, it is quite a small cast, meaning that we have a really reliant episode on character, and we really get to grips with these different characters and their life stories and their backgrounds, and we have quite a variety of that throughout this story. The central Torchwood member for this release is Toshiko Sato, as portrayed by Noako Murray. Then we have Lee, as portrayed by Taylor J. Davis. Then we have Fawzia, the other central character for the episode, as portrayed by Suzanne Packer. And finally we have Chris, as portrayed by Robert Wilford. So what is Drive about as an actual story? Well, it is of course written by David Lewen, and as per usual, a theme with the Torchwood main range is that the title doesn't particularly give much away. Of course, the cover art itself has Toshiko on a rather grim Cardiff night, and we have a taxi and the beaming lights, of course, and a torchlight with the stereotypical themes of the series 1 and 2 posters, of course, for Torchwood, as they always seem to be holding torches within those early era stories. And that is pretty much it. That is all we get from the cover art itself. However, this episode kind of follows a similar theme to that of Coffee, where they've kind of taken a day-to-day thing, especially in life within a city, and they've kind of added a bit of alien involvement in there. So the first thing that I thought when going into this story was, right, okay, it's an episode focused around a taxi, so the alien is going to be the driver of the taxi, and the people who end up riding in the taxi are going to be kind of interrogated by the alien, and the alien is gradually going to learn more and more about humans because taxi drivers find out everything, of course, and eventually they plan to invade or something like that. So that is what I thought this story was going to be. However, I was pleasantly surprised that the actual alien aspect of the episode really isn't that important. Basically, we have Toshiko, who is going to a stakeout to basically watch a transfer of some goods that have been bought on the black market, and basically it goes badly wrong, and Toshiko basically ends up being injured or poisoned by these people because the group that are working to try and get this technology is a little bit black market, a little bit clandestine gang kind of. They're using different companies as kind of disguises. Of course, a normal regular shop has a little bit of darker stuff going on underneath relating to money laundering and other fraudulent activities. And basically then we have the taxi theme coming in because she's poisoned. It's near the train station, and as with all city train stations, there is a large taxi rank outside, and basically her way to get to hospital is via the taxi, and from there we get introduced to Fawzia. We get to see this lovely relationship blossoming very naturally for a rather unusual and mad situation, and as a result it's a lot of fun, and Susan Packer does an absolutely phenomenal job of bringing this character to life. She's believable, she's very personal, she's very domestic as well, as you get little hints to her backstory and her life currently, and she's a character that is very different. I like it as Tosh is going off doing different different things. She constantly ends up picking up the phone to her different family members and different friends, and as a result we get little glimpses into her life. So for example, I do believe her son is about to get married and they're also about to be expecting a child. However, she's recently had a doctor's appointment. She's found out that due to her being over the age of 15, a few little medical conditions are starting to creep in, and as a result she's nervous that her livelihood of being a taxi driver is basically going to be taken away from her due to those medical conditions that presumably are going to get more prominent as she gets older. So it's a very real story with very real human problems, with this alien tech front kind of put on the side. Other thing that I really like about this story, and by far one of its best selling points, is that Nawako Mori actually gets a little bit more to do. I do believe that this is the first ever Torchwood main range review that I've done on this channel that is solely a Toshiko story. I have listened to the Dinner and a Show with of course Gareth David Lloyd as Yanto. That was of course a duo story, and again I can recall an episode focusing quite a lot on the relationship between them. So it's nice to be able to see Toshiko by herself doing her own thing, because the rest of the Torchwood team are in fact up in Brecon on a mission and she's been left behind. And Toshiko, as it mentions within behind the scenes, she is a character that yes is a part of this organisation, and yes she's a close part of the team and is reliant on lots of the technology and is certainly one of the brains behind the operation. However, at the same time she's kind of left out. She's a character that doesn't particularly get too much focus, and quite often she can go into the background, which is really unfortunate. And as we see throughout this story, we get to see her being the focus, being the main lead, and developing this relationship with Fawzia through the taxi driving. And it's nice because we've never actually got to see Toshiko doing something on this level, actually getting to know someone without that relationship context being thrown in there, a little bit of romance. It's nice to see her actually getting along with somebody simply because they're another human. And of course Toshiko is somebody who's came to Cardiff and she still doesn't know the city on a personal level, and that is where we have the taxi stuff coming in. So taxi drivers learn everything, and that is a cool aspect that's brought in, because no matter what, if you've got this alien technology that's floating around the city, chances are they may not even realise it, but the taxi driver might have vital information that will help Torchwood track down this alien artefact, and that is prominent throughout the narrative of this episode. Another really refreshing thing about this release is that it does something a little bit different, because especially with some of the previous Torchwood stories that I've listened to, they're fixed to one location. It is very Inside Number 9, where you kind of, I don't know why that was the example that came into my head first, but you kind of get the idea. For the half an hour, or for the 1 hour story even, we are in one location and we're going to get to know this location. It can be quite a confined location at times. However, that is all we're going to see, and we have this microcosm kind of that is created because we don't see outside this bubble. Of course, recent examples, Coffee, Bab's Cafe. We have the episode at Christmas, The Crown, which was of course based within an asylum during Victorian times and Queen Victoria. Then we have The Excellent Barbecue, of course, Yanto Jones and Kai Owen, of course, as Reese. That was set within Gwen's house, kind of, and back garden. Then we have episodes like of Iceberg and Dissected, which have that very medical setting, and it is within a rather cold laboratory environment. They were all stories that focus around one area and one area only. This episode basically gives you a tour of Cardiff on a drizzling, horrible night, kind of just a standard British evening. There's rain pouring down, we go to nightclubs, we go to the outside of train stations where the drug dealers usually hang out. We get to see a shipment yard, the boat yard, Cardiff Bay as well, of course, because this is a Torchwood story. So you really get to grips with the city through the eyes of Fawzia, and you see Cardiff from a little bit of a local perspective, as opposed to a usual Big Finish story that kind of acknowledges that we're in Cardiff, however doesn't really dig a bit deeper. The story feels personal, and of course David Lewen himself does live in Cardiff, so that's probably the reason why this story feels so realistic and domestic, and I really do like that. It's kind of an episode that jumps around in location, but at the same time is considerably slow paced, which again is nice for a Torchwood story. It takes its time, it pads out its characters, it really builds on the setting and the interaction between the main characters of the piece, and you kind of just get to grips with these humans and their lives, and kind of the alien involvement or the alien tech that they're tracking down isn't the most important bit, it's the people and the people that we interact with. As I referenced at the very start of this review, there is a number of references throughout the story to that of gang crime, fraudulent activity, and basically clandestine interactions that go on within the dark streets of a city at night. And this story could have very easily gone down a stereotypical gang crime route where you just have bad people, they're doing bad things. What I like about this story is, yes, we do have gang crime, and yes, it is an alien twist of basically they're delivering alien goods and transferring them on the black market, and they don't have any idea what these alien goods actually do. Criminals are human. They're doing things for different motivations, and it kind of links into that domestic element within the story that, yes, comes to the forefront within the final act of this narrative. And as per usual, I'm not going to mention what happens throughout this review. I've already mentioned that it's quite a slow burning story, always focused around character and the different interactions. But yes, the criminals aren't particularly what they seem, but it's done in a way that isn't particularly a big revelation. It's not like they're doing stuff because they're good people after all. Don't get me wrong, they are bad people. However, their motivations are kind of personal, and their own personal weaknesses as people that have made them result to this. Kind of links into the gang stuff. It's quite a gritty gang story, but again, it's more than that, with a very domestic, personal element. In particular, the highlights of the story, of course, being Fawzia and Toshiko perfectly working together. It's kind of like a detective duo, however, in a different way. You have the professional from Torchwood, and then you have the eyes and ears of the streets, the taxi driver, hearing and learning everything, and always keeping an eye out, knowing all of the secrets, knowing all of the different routes around the city and the different shortcuts. That makes a pairing that is really intriguing and entertaining to listen to. So yes, if you're a fan of Toshiko, this one is most certainly an episode that you should consider listening to. So in conclusion, for Taxi as a story, yep, it's enjoyable. I liked it. I liked the different domestic elements of this story, and it did something a bit different to your usual Torchwood narratives. I like the fact that we got to see Cardiff a bit more, and the different locations of Cardiff. I like the fact that it was rather active, but also quite slow burning, and it was nice to be able to get out of that format of being one Torchwood story, one location, and we're staying in this location for the entirety of the story. So yes, a strong script, brilliant characters, and I like the fact that we move about. So thank you very much for watching this review. I really hope you have enjoyed it. Do of course stay tuned on the Host Productions for brand new Doctor Who content each and every week, from product reviews, book reviews, Big Finish audio drama reviews, and much, much more. Of course, work dependent, hopefully I will be reviewing the next Torchwood main range release. That is of course Lease of Life, featuring Baumann as Dr. Owen Harper. Then the release after that is Gooseberry, which is another Tom Price as Sergeant Andy Davison and Owen Harper duo story, which I do quite like those. So it's very nice to see another outing of those characters in the future. As I've just said, that will be dependent on how much work I have to do relating to uni, because it is mounting up again. I don't seem to have a break from studies at the minute, which is a shame, but thankfully, when I do get a break, Big Finish is there to help. So thank you for watching this review, and I shall see you all next time. Bye for now.